Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's daily brief. Brian's back in the saddle here. My apologies for yesterday, guys. People who know me personally, I'm going through a very, very difficult time with my son. So it hit a bit of an apex yesterday. So my apologies if I didn't give you a top-notch job yesterday. I try my best, but sometimes life just shits on us. So I'll try and bring the PMA here for you all. Yeah, I know you desperately need it, and you need me to be a good leader here. So let's just keep on keeping on. Maybe if you could throw yourself on mute if you join the hangout here. And then that way we don't have to worry about dishes and stuff like that in the background. But welcome back to the frivolity. I suppose one good thing is Bitcoin's breakout last night sort of snapped me out of my malaise a little bit, so that's good. And I'm looking forward to this morning because I've got my anchor back with me, Thomas. I always feel so much more relaxed and more able to give you guys a professional product when Thomas is on board. So good morning, sir. Are you there? Maybe he's not.
I am. Good morning.
There he is. Hi, dude. And of course, we've got the mayor of Vienna driving the bus, and if anything, he kept us on course yesterday. So thank you very much, Alex. How you doing this morning, Alex?
Hey, sir. Can't complain. Glad you're feeling a little better.
Thanks, man. And also, Jamie, if you're watching this yesterday, I was kind of poo-poo through your presentation. I thought you did a really, really good job. And everybody who wants a nice fundamental overview of the market, I'd highly suggest you watch yesterday's daily brief and listen to Jamie. I thought he did a really good job. So, needless to say, we had Bitcoin breakout quite violently last night. We've been sort of tweeting out, talking about higher time frame bullish bots and all that kind of stuff just working away. So a lot of those upside objectives have been hit. So that's great to see. Of course, everybody on TRI, no FOMO allowed. So I don't want to hear about anybody chasing Bitcoin at $5,000 a coin. But as I said, we do have the bear here, and I love getting his perspective on the market. So, Mr. Bear, where do you feel like starting our adventure today?
Well, I know everyone wants to hear what's going on in crypto, but you're going to have to be a little patient here. We're going to go according to schedule and do some equity market stuff. We'll do an abridged segment, maybe not more than 30 minutes here. So at the bottom half of the hour, we'll try to cut it off and move into crypto. But yeah, I was definitely excited to see what happened in that market as well. So with that, we'll put that on the shelf for now, and we'll go about 24 minutes here in equity land and see what's going on. So without further ado, we'll bring up our Market Watch headlines and see the Dow's down 80 points, S&P's down about a point. I mean, really, what we're seeing here on the market is a really crazy crossroads. You have the media coming out and saying, oh, recession's coming, the yield curve's inverted, we're seeing GDP coming down. And, if anyone remembers from level one, what are one of the criteria that involve GDP? What do you need from GDP to signal a recession? Does anyone remember what that specific criteria for a declining GDP would be?
You stumped me. I don't know where you're going with this.
I thought it was 2 consecutive quarters of decline.
Oh, that's what a recession. That's how they define a recession: 2 negative quarters. Okay.
Sorry, I guess I phrased it backwards. It was like a backwards SET question. So I failed. The question writer failed. My apologies.
No, it's all good, dude.
But,
yeah. So to actually get a quota. And the irony of it all is that that's such an arbitrary figure. GDP numbers themselves are constantly being revised. We used to, in the pits, we used to always say, don't listen to the employment numbers when they come out, because 9 times out of 10, the following month, they'll actually revise the previous month's employment numbers. So, and, I've always said to everybody on the site, don't listen to the talking heads. Don't even listen to government bureaucrats when they tell you the state of the economy, because half of the time they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Just listen to the charts, listen to the data. So my apologies for cutting you off, but yeah, you're right. I need 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth to officially declare recession.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, everyone's paying attention to this. And it was interesting. I read that there was a competition for some universities. I forget the name of the university, but essentially one of the big name trading guys went to the university to judge it. And one of the questions was, what is, explain how you could measure recession. And every single one of the students were talking about yield curve inversion. And I'm just wondering now if so many people are paying attention to this yield curve inversion, which, by the way, Brian has brought up that, we actually need to sustain underneath, to sustain a yield curve inversion for more than just a few days. I'm just wondering if this really isn't going to be the signal. The problem with recessions is that you don't know you're in a recession until you're almost on the way out of the thing. So, I mean, you can look at most of the data on the inside, look under the hood as to what's going on, and that'll give you a pretty nice prognostication about what's going on. Now, as far as what we're seeing in the market,
I'll say one thing absolutely for certain. The stock market is the ultimate leading indicator. When the stock market breaks, that's the very cutting edge of the economic downturn. So if we don't have like a massive break in the stock market, there's no recession. And really what I saw through December, to me, almost felt like it was like a little bit manufactured and typical Donald Trump kind of stuff, way to screw over everybody's Christmas.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because here we have the Dow up, and that looks like a very nice letter of the alphabet to me. Did we break to new highs from our February high? So we were 2641, and today it looks like we're 26,280. So we went, or yesterday, excuse me. So yesterday we went a bit higher than the February highs. So
did you see this crazy ass bull flag that I was talking about yesterday in the daily brief?
That potential thing that could fly upwards. Yeah, I mean, at this point,
potential, man. I think this thing's rocking and rolling. Look out. And the thing is they put the Fed back in the box now, eh? The Fed, I mean, the sad part about it is the Fed probably should have just kept on their course and said, look, we're refrain from comment. We'll watch the data, blah, 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 blah. Don't tell us to lower rates. Go fuck off, Mr. Politician, right? We'll do what we think is economically sound. But what's ended up happening now is they've basically cornered this Fed guy. So now he can't talk about raising rates. So now the stock market's going to have just one big ass fucking orgy. Sorry. I get all excited there.
It is. It's crazy, right? I mean, this is really just complete nonsense coming out of the Fed. And really, is this much of a surprise, right? I mean, how are they going to tell you the truth as to what's going on? He, like Brian said, he's been talked into a corner, and he's got to go with it. And he's kind of trying to walk away like he did from his dovish pivot. Now he's too far on the other side. It's just classic politician. And classic Fed chairman. They just go too far to one side too quickly. And it seems like we're seeing it happen way faster than it normally does. So now we're seeing stocks and everything's kind of trying to take off here. S&P also has taken off to new highs for the year. So, I mean, I think we need to retest these highs. Brian's been talking about that for a while. I've been a little more cautious. It looks like it's on the table at this point.
I'd agree with you there. I think that's an excellent point. This is going to be really, really hard for new people to trading to see. But what I see is that and I don't know how to describe this. It's like the velocity of change. Does that make sense? It seems to be speeding up. Like things are coiling and the reactions are more violent. And the this whole sort of Fed soap opera, it's it's accelerating, and that is such an excellent hallmark of the end of an economic cycle. So my apologies for interrupting, but the point that you just made there, and I think we went over very quickly, but I don't think it should be overlooked, is that, you know, it feels like the acceleration, and I don't know how to describe it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, everything is happening way faster than you would normally see it happen.
Yeah, and that is such a classic hallmark of the end of an economic cycle.
Yeah, it's schizophrenia. I mean, these guys they're like chickens with their heads cut off. If you look one way, oh, we forgot to look the other way. Now we got to go on that side. And this is what we're seeing out of the market. I mean, this kind of move is not typical, right? This is one hell of a bounce. It almost reminds me of what happened at Bitcoin over the last couple of weeks, where this thing came down, and probably on a 4-hour chart where it just came ramping back up again. This has the hallmarks of a move that is getting ready to bust to the upside, and it sure looks like we're going through our reload zones.
You know, the irony of all this is everybody knows what letter of the alphabet. Colleen, you should see this and know what the letter of that alphabet is off of those lows. And we know that V bottoms have to be tested at some point in the future. So the irony of it all is the market is telling us in glorious Technicolor, we're going to head back down here at some point. You know, it's
yeah. No,
it's welcome to the end of an economic cycle, everybody. Strap on your seatbelts. It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah, you don't see this stuff very often, right? It only comes every couple decades, right? I mean, the last time we saw this happen was 2007, 2008, 2009. Here we are, recessions end in 8s, 9s, 1s, and 0s, 0s and 1s. I don't know, binary. But hey, we're in that time frame. So whether it happens today, next year, or the year after, this thing is coming to an end. So prepare yourselves. So anyway, without the doom and gloom, well, I guess this probably is doom and gloom, but I just really wanted to touch on Lyft again. I just want to drive home anyone wwho's new or has been like...
intended.
What's that? Oh yeah, drive it home. Didn't even... You know, it's fascinating because I got into a car accident over the weekend. We were driving, my wife and I were on our way to dinner on Friday, and we took a Lyft, and this car just like hit our car, and the airbags went off. Nobody was hurt. It wasn't that bad, but you know, the car was screwed up. So it was a nightmare, like trying to figure out what to do, because our driver he didn't speak English, and the guy who hit our car was completely at fault because he went across lanes and like totally smashed the car, just not paying attention. I don't know if he was on his phone or if he was like having I don't know, whatever. And you know, the Lyft app, it's like impossible to try to figure out what to do when you're in an accident, because it doesn't let you cancel the ride. You have to navigate through the help section. It calls this like crazy number, and the lady's like, okay, you were involved in an accident. What's going on? And then basically the only thing that they said was, all right, make sure you're in a safe place. And if you don't need to go to a hospital or an ambulance, we'd like to take your statement as to what happened over the phone. And I was like, well, that's not happening right now. You can call me you can call us tomorrow. And she goes, okay, that's no problem. We'll issue you a coupon for a free ride to where you're going. And that was it. And I was like, are you, at this point, adrenaline's pumping. The car hit my wife's side, and she thought she hit her head, but really it was just the airbag that deployed and like hit her with the airbag, and she was fine. She didn't even have a bump on her head. But it was just a very odd experience. When you're involved in an accident yourself, you got to get the insurance. You got to, make sure you file a claim. And just so everyone knows, if you're not at fault in a car accident, call the police and get a report. Can't tell you, I've been in a few accidents before where I wasn't at fault and the car insurance companies ruled against me because I didn't have a police report showing that the police said that, hey, it wasn't his fault. And essentially, I don't get all of the money back or whatever it is. It just doesn't work out in your favor. So in this case, I didn't know, should I just walk away? Do I call this new car? And meanwhile, this car has been hit. It's laying in the middle of the trolley tracks. And one of the trolleys in Philadelphia is coming down the road, and he's honking at the car. And the trolley driver is cursing out the Lyft driver for parking his car on the trolley tracks. And we're trying to tell the trolley driver, hey, this car's been hit. It can't move. It was just a nightmare. I mean, everyone, again, at the end of the day, everyone was okay, but it was just a strange occurrence. And it was like, I was joking around at the end of the night. I came in the chat and I said, hey, it's an omen to short lift because this thing looks like shit. And it turns out it does look like shit. This thing's, it saw its highs of the day on Friday. And ever since then, this thing's just gone down. And I had to look.
I mean, not to make light of your situation, and thank heavens you're okay. And also too that it wasn't your car; it was just one of these rental agencies. But it's so funny. I don't know. Have you been watching Kramer? He keeps coming on saying, "Oh yeah, it's a buy at 75. Oh, it's a buy at 72. Oh, it's a buy at 68." And it just keeps going lower and lower and lower.
How does he still have a job? Can anyone explain to me how a person like that, who is consistently wrong on national television day in and day out and loses people millions and millions of dollars, presumably if they take his advice, how does he have a platform? I don't get it.
It just goes to show this guy's, Mr. Smarty Pants. And yet, basically, he's talking opinion every day, right? It's his opinion that this is going to happen. It's opinion that that's going to happen. And more often than not, you're wrong. If anything, use Jim Cramer as a perfect example. And it doesn't matter how smarty pants these guys are. Opinions are, what does Brian think of people's opinions? Colleen, if you learn one thing in this level 1 program, what does Brian think about people's opinions? I'm sorry to derail you there, Thomas, but it's just such a great analogy of they're useless. They're pointless. Trade setups. It's the only thing that matters in this world. Yeah. So I love the fact that he's constantly being proved wrong. They're worth two not.
Oh, I do. I guess I also enjoy watching him be wrong, but at the same time, it just makes listening to him, it's almost like a great contrarian indicator. Whatever he brings up as a buy, I'm just like, maybe I should short the shit out of it.
Does he work for Goldman Sachs? I wonder.
He has to. There's no way he doesn't.
I don't
know.
It's just like, the Bitcoin traders on CNBC. Yeah, sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong, but you're never going to find anybody who's right 100% of the time. And I got to tell you, everybody here, this is the whole damn reason why I built this course and why I teach you to build trading plans and trade setups and lose your opinion. In fact, it was so great. We have one level oneer who's just literally, he's taken this information and just run with it. And it's beautiful watching him. This guy, I don't even know what his name is. Own Pollution is the name on the site that he goes by. And I think he's gotten to the point where he sees that, you got to just take the setups and live with the results and put your opinions away. They're worthless, So, sorry, I love listening to you. I should shut the hell up. Continue, sir.
So, I mean, the only reason why I'm bringing this up, and you've heard this before, and I think it's important to drive this home, is that when these things go public, I think it's like somewhere around 90% of stocks that IPO, they end up going down. Now, as far as how far down they go, that differs based on the company that IPOs. But again, more than 90% of these names will end up going down at their launch. Like, for instance, I think Facebook started at $50.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Sorry. You're doing such a great job, but I keep throwing stuff in. Yeah, the Facebook analogy is perfect. And the irony of it all is most times you have to think of an IPO, and same thing with the ICO, is that's actually an exit event for people. And
you stole my thunder, man.
Oh, were you about to say that?
I was about to go into the ICO thing too, but that's okay. You can have that cookie.
Well, no. I mean, it's exactly the same shit. It's just different pile.
Exactly.
But we just have to understand, especially people that are like private investors that took, venture capital, seed funding, all that kind of crap. The day that these things go public, that's their exit event. That's when they ring the register. And the irony of it all, and yeah, like you got your Facebook chart. Facebook's such a good example of this. The general rule is that these things usually fall in half. That's the general rule. But you can see in Facebook, it fell more than half. But generally speaking, in fact, it might be interesting to pull up the Goog, because Goog was one of the only IPOs that actually did fairly well out of the gate. But you can even see when it came out, it had to come off. Did it? I guess, is that a split adjusted basis? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it has to be split adjusted.
Didn't quite fall in half, but nonetheless, came down quite a bit. I seem to remember it came out at around $60 or so, something like that. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'll shut up. But great stuff, Thomas. Great stuff. Yep, you're right about the lift, and really, just like ICOs, don't touch them. Let the market tell you when to buy.
Yeah, I mean, think about all the guys that tied up their money, the funding, and they want to get their money out. They want to make a return. As soon as the shit comes out, they want to free it up for the next investment. I mean, here's Snapchat, same thing, except this one looks way worse. This thing came out at $30, and it came all the way down to $4. And is this a function of just like investor confidence in new companies? Is this a frothy market and there's just not enough liquidity coming around? I don't know. But what I think it comes down to is some of these companies that are IPOing, like, for instance, Lyft and Snapchat, like, how are they making money? They're all coming out and they're like, oh, we're operating with this much debt and we don't foresee a profit coming in for like 7 years. And then you look at Lyft and you're just like, well, how the fuck am I going to get my money back if they're not going to post a profit just on like the hopes and dreams of magical unicorns that are going to rescue this company? And the answer is no, obviously not that. But then you also have to think, like, all of the guys who bought into Lyft, the big money that went into Lyft, they're thinking, why on earth should I hold this stock right now when Uber's just around the corner to launch their IPO? And to me, it makes no sense why either of these companies are going to be worth whatever valuation. And on top of that, Lyft right now, they're only trading 10% of the available shares. And on 10% of the available shares, the rest of them are locked up or they're in private hands or you can't do anything with them yet. And they're already coming down. What does that really say about this company? I mean, it's such bullshit what they're doing right now. And it really pisses me off. But it is what it is. And I like my cousin, if you're listening to this, by the way, and you bought this Lyft IPO, shame on you. Because I told you on Friday morning, don't fucking buy this thing. So if you're sitting in this position right now, all I have to say is I freaking told you so, man. So I'm sorry, I just had to do that.
That's going to be a fun Thanksgiving dinner around your family table.
It just drives me nuts. I mean, well, people are like, oh, I saved up all this money to buy into this thing. And it's like, why? What made you want to buy this thing? Just because, you're drunk from coming home from the bar and it's reducing the number of DUIs that are, I think that's great, but whatever, this is getting too long-winded and I'm ranting, so I'm cutting myself off. So if you don't buy IPOs and don't buy ICOs when they launched, period, end of story. All right, so with that rant over,
that actually felt like maybe that was built up over a few days. You had to get that out, eh? And especially the fact that you had this very emotional, very real experience with Lyft itself. So I can imagine you've got a lot of internal anxieties over this.
I'm just wondering if what else was I supposed to do? Like, I'm in a car accident. Here's a coupon to finish the last 3 minutes of your ride.
I know. They probably, kept the meter running while you're sitting there going, oh my God, or is everybody okay?
Well, the lady said she couldn't cancel the ride. She's like, you have to get the driver to cancel the ride and then I'll refund it. I'm like,
well, the driver's dead.
Yeah, I'm like, first of all, the driver doesn't speak English. And second of all, he looks like he's a deer in headlights. Like, the poor guy's freaking out. Who knows if he's got enough money to afford another car. And this guy's just, this poor dude's just doing this to earn some money. And, Lyft just takes advantage of that shit all the time. It's just whatever. It is what it is. We've got like 3 minutes here.
Too, though, just before maybe the last comment, and then we'll move on. Great hallmark again of the end of an economic cycle. When we go back, and I've been through about 6 or 7 of these over the past 30 years, we will go back into a time where people are freaking out about work and jobs and the economy and growth and IPOing these kind of ideas, the market will look at them and laugh at them that they don't have any earnings. But when we get into the end of these cycles, it's just like people just get stupid about money. And if anything, I like what you're saying here. Let's this is one reason why I really like the fundamental screens that we build. Let's try and stick to good fundamentals of why we're actually buying these stocks. So I think that's a really good point, sir.
Yeah, if you're buying these things on unicorn dust, like go home. Just stop. Don't buy anything. Just get a real reason that's anchored in reality, not the magical parallel universe you might be living in. All right, I'm done. You can tell I still have this problem. All right, so dollar here. This is an important one. I just want to go over this because this relates to my favorite gold and silver. I'm not sure what's going on with the dollar, right? I had this potential head and shoulders. I still think the dollar is a bull. I was really anxious about this setup. We were in a reload zone. 78.6 line in the sand. What's going to happen? And then today, boom, we rocketed higher. Now, are we out of the woods here from this head and shoulder coming through? I'm not 100% there. I'm a little more confident that this thing's ready to break out. But the dollar's just been so range bound. Just please give me a direction. If this thing does move, which I am seeing weakness in the other markets, which lends me to believe that maybe this move is for real. For instance, the euro just broke above one spot 12. Here's my euro US dollar chart. These were the lows here. V bottom. I mean, is anyone surprised this thing's retesting it again? You shouldn't be, right? You've been listening to us for how long? This is how this shit works. And look at these Bollinger Bands. They're starting to open up. I think the euro's in big trouble. This thing's about to puke its guts out. I really like a short euro trade, but I hate Forex, so I don't trade it. So the only way that I'm going to play this thing is through shorting gold and silver, and that's what I did. I shorted the SLV, and I'm still very happy being in that position. I think this thing could lose its lunch here, and it's just kind of flirting with that idea. It's like, do I really want to push down into Mountain Man? And I think it needs to, and it will. My puts expire in 2 weeks. I'm still very much in the money. I bought the 1450s. So right now my intrinsic value is whatever 15 minus 13, so 37 cents. My puts are actually trading at 43 cents, but I imagine each day my time value decay is eroding that position. But I think this thing will
roll that position out into a later month.
Yeah, that was actually on my list of things to do today after I go figure out what's wrong with my I have like a cold or something going on. I don't know what it is, but after I get back from that, rolling is certainly on the cards here because this thing's worth 3 times what I paid for it right now, which is great.
When you go to the doctors, and this is just dad talking, I would tell them about the lift instance, and I wouldn't be surprised if you actually have a little bit of post-traumatic stress there.
Maybe
some of the sort of sickness that you're feeling might actually be emotionally tied to that event.
I guess it's possible. I don't know if I want to go down that route of it is. Yeah, I'll bring it up. We'll see how.
Well, just listening to you today, I can hear it in you that this has had an impact on you. But that's just dad talking. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Dad.
Hey, it's just like me. I mean, fuck, look at the way, I've got this stress with my son, and man, I can't even think straight right now. And look at what I did yesterday. I was a total useless mess for all you guys. So, I mean, this emotional stuff, man, it can really weigh on you. So
yeah, being human with emotions, really. This is what makes trading so hard. I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and they asked me, what's the hardest thing about your strategy when it comes to trading? Like, what do you find the most difficult about ironing out a good strategy? I said, to be honest, the strategy is meaningless. Like, you can use whatever strategy you want. You're your own worst enemy. If you can't figure out how to put yourself in the right mindset, and you can't let your, cut off your losers and let your winners go, you're never going to be successful. And, that's really what this comes down to, is human emotions. Really, you need to learn how to control them. Otherwise, you're going to get toasted by these markets because they prey on these instincts that we all learn about through Brian's level 1 course. But
well, and again, I know it sounds kind of cheesy stuff, but everybody, this is the power of these journals, right? To download this stuff it's great if you have somebody in your life that you can talk to and let it out and stuff. But also too, take advantage of that journal just to get this stuff out. So, it's incredible. I've told you guys, I'm 30 years into this, still a student of the market. I'm ironically enough, I'm in exactly the same position as all of you are. My DNA hasn't changed over 30 years other than, getting a little bit older. But yep, all of the things that could plague me and derail me when I was first starting this, exactly the same now. So yeah, okay. Continue, sir. Doing a great job. Love listening to your voice. Please go on.
I'm just trying to go through some names here as far as what's going on. I mean, it just
we are at the bottom of the hour, so
all right, good.
we should leave the stock market at that for today.
Yeah, let me just brag about one thing before we move on. This isn't
All right.
like, but I just wanted to mention this. This one goes out to Kevin because Kevin's been trying to get in on this name for I don't know a long time, or not a long time, but I keep bringing it up, and it looks really promising. It's the stock called Pulm. And I think I've definitely posted in the lounge a few times, but this thing looked like it was forming a bottom way back in, I don't know, January, maybe February. This thing put in a nice double bottom here, and I set my bids at about 85 cents. Once this thing double bottomed, I set my bids. This thing came back down again. You can see the nice W here, divergence. I got everything that I really wanted out of this thing. And I got my fill when this thing came back down. And I was very happy to see that because this thing eventually took off again. So this thing, this thing took off first up to about $2.30, then ended up coming back down. And Kevin was in the lounge and he's like, oh shit, I can't believe it. This thing perfectly tagged 78.6. This thing came down to about $1.04. Maybe a little more than that. The low here is $1.05. So this thing came down to 78.6, and then 3 days later, so yesterday, this thing ramped all the way up to about $3. This is just textbook trading, right? This is what everyone's doing in the altcoin space. I see it, everyone posting this stuff, and you can do it in the equity market too. So don't forget that. If crypto and altcoins eventually do go quiet, you can use those same skill sets here across these markets. It works just the same. So yeah, there's that. And now we can move on to crypto. There's my brag for the day.
Way to go. You're my hero, man. In fact, you should draw a trend line off of that peak from back in February against that peak in March. And that's probably where this thing wants to go.
Like
no, off of the high in February. Early February.
Oh, I see. So
the actual
here?
Double bottom. No, the double bottom.
Down to here? And
that high.
Oh, the high. This high? I don't know what I'm doing.
That's good. Now,
yeah.
A few days later, keep going. A little bit more to the right. There you go. That high there. You're so close. No. Geez, now you're moving away again. Okay.
So wait, where the low needs to be where? Was my low?
First point off of that high. You're so close. 1 day later. Just 1 day later.
oh, off this high, like this.
Yay, there you go. So that's probably where she wants to go to. You did it. Way to go.
Paint by lines with Brian and Thomas.
Yeah. And actually, the profile there, that's a really cool example. Take your, go up on your drawing tools where the paintbrush is and select the arc. Oh, no, don't leave this one. This is so cool. Yeah, the arc right down at the bottom. Right. Yeah. And then draw your arc, but the middle of the parabola has got to be that POC. So, yeah, that means the top's going to be way higher. No, all the way down to the bottom. Oh, no. Now where are you going?
I don't know. This is entertaining, though.
I'll do it later for you.
Yeah, you're going to have to draw.
Really good example of Hogue. It looks to me like that thing wants to go a lot higher. Yeah, okay, so drag that down to the bottom of value. Or not even value, just the low. And then try and make those, straight line. There you go. All right, so you're getting closer. But in essence, this is a really, really good app. You probably should do that as a straight line. Yeah, there you go. All right, perfect. Yeah, you did it. So in essence, the top of value or the top of the parabola will probably bring in a lot of late FOMO buyers, that kind of stuff, and that'll tag nicely with that trend line. So keep that on your chart just for fun, and let's see what happens, because my hunch is that thing's probably got a date with that trend line, and if the profile wants to look like a parabola. So kind of cool. That's actually a really good application of sort of, multiple reasons for a trade. And also interesting too, cool how the 200 SMA is basically right up against that trend line too, eh?
Hmm.
All right. Let's head on over to crypto now. Crypto tastes great.
Let's start with news, because everyone, I saw people screaming out in the lounge, like, what's the driver? Why is this thing going up? And to be honest, I don't really think there's a real driver. I think it's the technicals. I think that this thing has just sat so low and just gone sideways for so long. Somebody read that April Fool's joke about the Bitcoin ETF getting getting approved. Getting approved, and somebody stepped up and bought in size. But I mean, really,
that
what
was
we're looking
cute. People were posting that, and if the interesting thing is April 1st actually was my wife and our anniversary, so it was an especially difficult day for me yesterday. But I thought that was very amusing. People were throwing that out, and then right at the very last line, it was like, this is an April Fool's joke. Don't think a lot of people got to the bottom of the article, though. They just like, fuck it, I gotta buy.
I was waiting for something to come out. I thought it would be a little more clever than that, but nonetheless, that was the crypto version of April Fools.
I gotta say though, like from a trend perspective, I'm very pleased to see what's going on here. I had talked yesterday about how Bitcoin was flirting with the 13 EMA, and we should probably see some resistance at the 30 SMA on the weekly charts. And lo and behold, here we are. It's basically sitting right at that level. So in essence, it's great to see that we're finally getting higher highs and higher lows. That's awfully nice to see. But the trend, unfortunately, is still down. It's going to take a while for this thing to turn back up. And right now we are right basically at that 30 SMA on the weeklies. So,
yeah.
Anyway, what do you see? Oh, yeah, that's a weekly OKCoin, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at this weekly divergence forever, right? This weekly divergence gave us our signal like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. But the thing was, we didn't have structure coming in until... if you imagine this is your sideways W, when did this thing break above is the real question. I like necklines. And arguably, this thing gave us our signal, not this week, not last week, but the week before. So you had your buying chance on the weekly. And Brian, we always say, show me weekly W. And there it is. So, I mean, it's no surprise that this thing's broken up, really. It's just like, it's a sight for sore eyes is really what it comes down to. And I mean, I think I said something on Friday about like, hey, I want to see this market come down. And I probably said it on Ethereum, but I was really prepared for like this Monday, Tuesday, or it was like, I guess it's Tuesday morning, London time, kill zone for this thing to pop up. And I guess it popped during Asian kill zone. If you go down to an hourly, this thing really jumped at about midnight Eastern or 11. I think I went to sleep not like 5 minutes before this thing popped. And I shit you not, I put on a long position before I went to bed. And it was really funny because this thing, I saw this thing starting to break up a little bit on Ethereum and on Bitcoin. And I'm just thinking, I'm looking at my notes and I'm just saying, don't go into short positions overnight. This is a long-term, for weeklies, looks like a longer-term bull. So if you are going to take a position, it's got to be a bullish position if you're not going to pay attention to it. And sure enough, I woke up this morning like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and I couldn't believe this thing had broken higher. So I traded that through Ethereum. But I mean, I've kind of derailed myself.
I noticed Ethereum's kind of lagging a bit here. Did that
Yeah.
trade?
So the interesting thing here is that I'm rambling at this point, but if you looked at a daily chart of Ethereum versus a daily chart of Bitcoin, Bitcoin had broken to new, like, from the last couple weeks, new weekly highs before Ethereum did. So Bitcoin had broken out from this kind of range here, and Ethereum was still sitting down in this long sideways channel that I have down at the bottom of the screen that's not well zoomed in yet. But what happened was Bitcoin broke above that channel and Ethereum was just sitting there doing nothing. And I'm like, look, Bitcoin not only has this huge, tremendous, probably $500 to $700 upside, and Ethereum hasn't done anything yet. It would be foolish to be sitting in that. And plus, yesterday into New York Hill Zone, this thing at close, again, like these moves seem to be happening at the end of New York close on Ethereum. This thing comes down, and then it's just like a quick move down. And this has been happening a lot over the last couple of weeks. You get this slight move down, and it's like a hiccup, and then it comes back up and recovers. And that's sort of what happened here. So at this point here at, call it 11 o'clock, April 1st, Bitcoin had already broken out. So let me show you on this chart. I'm pretty sure this will correlate. If it doesn't, I'll have egg on my face and you can all laugh at me. But here we go. So we've got 10, 11. See, this thing's already breaking out at 7 o'clock Eastern. Here we are at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. This thing's already broken out, right? Just from what I'm seeing. This broke out from its sideways channel. There's no denying that, right? You can see you had two chances here. Not only did this candle make new highs, but the candle after that. So you had 2 full hours, which you don't always get, to make that decision. And I saw that and I was like, is this like a gift on a silver platter? I don't know, but I'm going to take the damn thing. And sure enough, Bitcoin's breaking out. Ethereum's just sitting there. I said, all right, I'll take the Ethereum trade. And that kind of goes back to what I was doing before January, where I was taking a lot of my cues from Bitcoin and then translating them into Ethereum. And it was a great moneymaker for me. And that's kind of been few and far between over the last few months, but I think it's back on. Bitcoin is just going to pull these markets higher. So, I mean, as far as potential upside objectives, I think I saw you were talking in the lounge that we're closer to tops than we are, or finishing moves rather than we are beginning them. And I'm going to double back here before I go into that. And, people are like, what is the fundamental driver? Why is this thing going higher? And I kind of explained that, hey, maybe it was more of a technical reason than it was a fundamental reason. But again, it's like, which came first, chicken or the egg? Does the dog wag the tail or the tail wag the dog, so to speak? According to this article, you've got this BCB group coming out and saying that this pump was triggered by a single whale who coordinated a $100 million buy across 3 crypto exchanges. And those 3 exchanges were Kraken, Binance, where are the list here?
Coinbase, Kraken, and Stamp.
Coinbase, Kraken, and Stamp. Thank you. I don't know why I'm blanking here, but that's what they think is happening. And it's really interesting. There are these systems that you can funnel your money into, and they'll do an automated buy across whatever exchange you want if you have a big purchase that you want to hit the market with. Of course, there's OTC.
Why would this guy do this over the counter, though? That's a bit surprising, eh?
I mean, hey, maybe he was sick and tired of seeing the market, and he's like, forget it. I'm ready to push the market up. I'm a whale, and I want everyone to be happy for whatever reason. But
well,
if you wanted
a lot of shorts got liquidated on this move, eh?
oh yeah.
Remember, like there was one guy on YouTube that I've been sort of poking fun at that was just been like, oh, this is a bear. It's all down. It's all down. Man, I bet you that guy's dying 1,000 deaths right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are coming out. And crypto Twitter was surprisingly bullish last week, and I guess they're all celebrating at this point. But it is interesting to note here where this market got stopped at. I don't know if this is algorithmic trading or looking at previous points in the market, but I had this
50%, eh? Doink. We're just sitting right on that 50% level now. That's remarkable.
What's fascinating to me is this blue line here that I've had drawn on my chart. And we'll just kind of do an exercise of moving to the left. I have 2 blue lines here. So just pay attention to this blue line that is just above the green, not the second blue line higher. So let's just move to the left and follow that blue line. You can see that this area was the last time kind of Bitcoin broke down and got eaten back up in March of last year. And then if you go all the way to the left, that blue line was drawn way back in 2017 before our original bull run. Like this was what I would call the original breakout level that caused this thing to move up. And you see this kind of stuff happen across all different kinds of markets. And some people have said it's just computer trading and they look for periods of support and resistance. And in this case, this was just a long-term resistance line, just like this might be. I mean, I'd argue that if we are to continue up higher, I think that this line in the sand is sort of your brick wall. If Bitcoin can continue to move another, I mean, what are we now? $4,700. So that would be another $1,100 on forwards. That would put us firmly into the last time we sideways consolidated before the rug was pulled out from under this market, which was when Bakkt was like, nope, we're done. We've been postponed. And I'd argue that was Bakkt's sort of buying program where they were buying up coins so they could have enough in their custodial product so they could get their ETF approved for April Fool's Day as a joke. Again, that wasn't approved. So, I mean, as far as what's happening now, if you do look at a daily, we are getting into overbought conditions. We're not quite there. I think this thing just needs to cool off a little bit. I'm not putting a fork in this thing by any means. You know, I had this goofy ABCD here that kind of ran a little bit further. Brian had a magnificent bot that I was talking about on Thursday. And once I said the word bot, Brian's ears perked up and he's like, oh, I got to tell you what my levels are now. So I'm going to give you that opportunity here to talk about what you're seeing. And as far as whether or not we hit that bot objective, because, you know, I'm seeing the fact that, hey, the market does need to cool off a bit, but this has just generated a whole lot of new buzz. And I think people are going to be really excited about this. So, and I think this is the kind of time where the market sucks people in, thinking, oh, we're in a bull run. And then people's hearts are going to get crushed again. Like maybe we do rally into 6,000. The higher up we go, the more people this is going to draw in. And I think that...
Well, very simply put, nobody at TRI has any business whatsoever going in and like market buying this market now. And, you know, like what I see in price action here is a total testament to that. You know, here's the bots that we've been sort of following along here. And this one probably pretty good illustration. The big AB equals CD, but unfortunately this went too far for us to call this a bot because it went beyond 66. But I do find it really interesting that this smaller bot that was valid basically had the same price objective, right? This really big AB equals CD, its objective was here. And this smaller one, its objective was here. And, you know, like how many altcoins have we seen on this? And, you know, various stocks and commodities and currencies and shit, right? Who's buying up here? And you know for certain that it's not professionals. If anything, the professionals are taking profits on this move. Now, I will give a special shout out. It's interesting on this Phoenix chart. We didn't, actually, it looks like we did 5105, 51. What's that high there? 510609. Wow. You know, I even tweeted out that Mr. Da Vinci had this objective of 1.618. And he even talked about it in that Coinigy show and that interview that we were doing months ago. And I gave him a shout out on Twitter today because, I mean, at the point we were sitting down here, everybody in the public was bear. And Dav was like, no, my objective's up in the 5,100 area here. So, I mean, a special hats off to him. He had the balls to come out and actually have that objective. I had recently put out tweets and stuff saying, I could see 1.272, you know, classic fib extension level. And it also happened to correspond with my bot levels. But anyway, you shake it, the pros are taking profits here. They're not buying. And what I'm worried about, of course, is that, you know, just, you know, maybe we do something like this where we might, you know, waffle around, then pull back, then go up to new highs, which actually creates a divergence, which actually now starts to paint, you know, the future bear move. I don't know whether we're going to do a complete like face rip down. We probably have to wait now for divergences to actually come in for us to actually start calling tops. And if we just put on our simple momentum models, this is a 4-hour. Yeah, the market is overbought, no doubt about it. And of course, you know, TRIers, we got no business being buyers up here. This is just silly. But is it possible that maybe Bitcoin flirts around with these levels for the next little while to create the divergence that'll get Thomas all excited about hitting shorts? I actually would fully expect that. So, but the point here is that, you know, and this is kind of actually, you know what, this is a really good example of. Somebody had asked the other day about Decred. I think it was Decred. And at this point on the price chart, you know, the asset had a big jump, right? And we were sort of, you know, mulling around in, I think, in this area here. And I was kind of like, you know, maybe you can put a trade on, but the odds are just, you know, it's not really the best place to be thinking about longs. And then all of a sudden, boosh, down we go. And this, you know, this, if anything, is what I'm sort of worried about with Bitcoin right now. You know, the public, of course, they see this big pop up, they see the market super strong, and they're like, okay, should I go and buy here now? And it's just like, well, what's the risk reward? You know, maybe you get a move up into here, but then also too, kind of like what you see here, maybe you get a move down here. So really the risk reward is almost like a 50-50. So I'm worried that that's what has to happen now here with Bitcoin. If we look at sort of the weekly price chart, you know, it's interesting, you know, people are going to blame this on technicals. And frankly speaking, I would say that we had an incredibly important apex. I don't know whether that's exactly the right word to use. I tweeted this out the other day. You know, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Before this candle actually happened, we were coming into this event. And interestingly enough, if you change this to a clothesline, kind of like what Thomas was talking about there the other, you know, a few minutes ago, this thing actually put in a clothesline double bottom over here. So you could actually make the argument that, you know, the professionals, the institutional players, they were already looking bull on this event here. But we had just this incredible sort of apex of energy. And I love this, and it would be really cool. I don't know whether Shane, if you watch this later on, ask, you know, it did Mercury retrograde finish? You know, I'll probably go pull up some celestial images and see whether there were any like triangles. There's a word for it when the planets make a triangular relationship. But it just felt like to me like this was just it was a massive apex event, and the pop yesterday was almost just like a releasing of that energy. I think I've talked to you guys about this chart that I put out, and this is a cool commentary on Thomas's conversation there, because remember he was talking about these horizontal lines. This happens to be off a stamp. I think his horizontal lines were off OKCoin. I'm super jazzed, and I teach in the level 2 program about the concept of high-low trend lines. Pivot high, pivot low, draw a trend line off of that. And these are really cool sort of like hidden trend lines that the public doesn't understand, and they don't draw these lines. Like they'll draw the very simple, you know, connect the dots, there's your trend line kind of idea, which is valid, right? But you can see not really well respected down the road. These high to low trend lines, I think, are extremely powerful. And I do believe that the market was flirting with that. So not only did we have this massive high to low trend line, we also had this sort of market structure M top. And then also too, basically the W on the intraday basis, it all came together on one apex event right there, which I was so impressed with. And you can see the violent sort of resolution of that. Now, here's the problem. And let's see if anybody on the site even knows this. Can we consider this trend line break a buy signal? What do we have to see to actually issue the buy signal? And this is what's scary here. Excellent, guys. Perfect. Excellent. Really, what I want to see, I mean, yes, I want to see candle body closes. That would be shitty if this thing just crapped right out and printed a massive shooting star, eh? That would be awful. But I think I even talked about this in yesterday's video. What we really need to see here is we need to see the market, okay, calm down and put in some sort of W, right? And then we get our buy signal. And of course, you know, what would that sort of look like? Can anybody start to connect the dots? Where am I going with this? Is there some sort of trading system or setup that we use on the site that might actually look something like this? Well, LJ is the break of the trend line and then the market structure signal on the other side. Thank you, Dan. And, you know, before I leave this, and Thomas, I don't mean to steal your thunder. I apologize. I'm talking too much, but you know, I think this is good quality information we're giving the people. I got to say, I was really, really touched by the boys showed me last night. Dan went and wrote a review of TRI and his experience. And, oh, my, Dan, you really touched my heart. You could bring me to tears. I mean, this is just, it's just beautiful. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate this. So go read what Dan has to say. Or Colleen, this is where I need to get you, right? Who else is here that's new? Dennis, this is where I need to get you, right? I don't know if we have any other level oneers here right now. But I was just so touched by this, Dan. You really touched my heart. And by the way, you know, if you ever do get over to Eastern Europe, Dan's the sweetest guy. You know, I remember I had such a great evening eating Viennese horsecocks. You guys remember that? Dan, Alex, and I went out to a nice restaurant and had a very quiet meal together, sampling all the Viennese fare. And oh man, it was such a magical evening. But anyway, I digress. Back to the conversation. It's extremely dangerous for us to actually go and take a trade right here. Very, very dangerous. What we have to actually wait for now, I mean, ideally what I'd like to see is I'd like to actually see the market finish this week, beep, like close. We've got the official closing breakout. And then spend a couple weeks coming back, checking, you know, Wyckoff. You guys ever heard me talk about Wyckoff? Checking the breakout, checking this high to low trend line, and then put in market structure. Once, you know, should all that happen, then rock and roll. So that's sort of what I'm seeing. You know, bot objectives, you know, the traders out there. As I had sort of talked about earlier, a lot of these levels basically got hit. Yes, sometimes the market even goes beyond the bot levels, but you have to understand who's coming in and buying up here. And this is real. I mean, it's a hard lesson to learn. I heard it last night. People, you know, the screens were popping, price was jumping and stuff. And I was like, please, everybody. And I even tweeted this out. And, you know, the worst part about it is, you know, some completely uneducated person, you know, replies back, oh, does that mean I sell my whole crypto portfolio? And it's like, oh God, you know, do you even understand what FOMO means? So I don't think a lot of the public understands what FOMO is, but I can absolutely guarantee you the people that were buying up here were the FOMOers. And of course, that's the last thing in the world anybody at TRI should be doing. If you're a bull, and that's perfectly all right, you know, maybe we take these lows now and we start drawing bot levels off of these levels. And I can absolutely guarantee you without a shadow of a doubt, you know, look how wide that range is. What do you think the odds are that maybe Mr. Thomas, if we come up here and then M out up here on a nice divergence, he's actually going to be playing this trade from here all the way back down to like Mountain Man here? This has got Thomas written all over it.
You can bet 50% of your Lyft IPO on that.
Yeah. So anyway, the point of the matter here is we have to let this settle down now. Now, if this is a bot, the interesting thing is the bot won't even come alive. It won't even say I'm ready to go until we at least come back to 46.65. So I don't know. We might very easily probe a bit higher here, and that's what I'm worried about. Is if we do probe a little bit higher here and all the divergences and shit start coming in, then we could be really setting up for a dump. If anything, what we would like as technicians is just to let the market settle down, put in some nice structure, and then we can start playing the next leg higher. Does that make sense, guys? What do you think? Does that help you at all? I hope it does. I really do. It's my best intention, of course. Okay, cool. All right, so I went off on about a 10-minute tangent there. I'm sorry. Actually, it was about 20 minutes. Sorry about that. Is there anything else you wanted to add to this conversation here, Thomas?
I mean, I already took my position off the table for my Ethereum long. Once this thing blew off into New York Hill Zone, I just unloaded the damn thing. I was like, you know what? I made almost, maybe it was over 200%. It was a 20x leverage position from 142 up to about 163 or whatever. This blow off came out at 9 o'clock, and I was like, all right, I'll set my watch to New York Hill Zone, wait for this thing to come in. I don't know if New York went short, but nonetheless, I was like, I can't leave that on the table. And that's kind of my.
I do like that about you, dude. Is I remember one time I was trading a bot, and you're like, "Dude, you're up like a huge amount. Take some profits." And I'm like, "No. I'll move my stop to scratch. That's according to my rules." And I got stopped out at scratch. And Thomas is like, "Fuck! You left all that money on the table. How could you?"
Yeah. This has been a thing that I've wrestled with in the middle of my career with Brian. Is that I would get these like 200 and 300% profit positions, and it was the same thing that would happen with you, Brian. As I'm up 300%, you're like, you should take some off the table. And I'm like, no, it's gonna keep going. And I don't know. I guess that was greed, or just like I'm like, it's gonna go to 78.6. But for whatever reason, on OKX, whenever it goes 200 or 300% at 20x, it never goes more than that without coming all the way the frick back down to my original entry. And then I'm just like crushed for the week. I'm like, oh, I had all that money and I lost it all. And it wasn't until I realized that A, I was being greedy, B, I need to learn to take profits, and C, 200 and 300% profit is a ridiculous amount to make on any trade. So I just put in a rule. I take profits anywhere from 150 to 200% profit, and I will take more than 90% of the position off the table at that point. And more often than not, that saved my ass. And it's important.
I love that thinking, because really what this means, everybody, and please understand this, trading is such a personal experience. I can show you how I trade. I can show you all the basic concepts, location, divergence, structure, whatever. I mean, we got tons and tons of these tools. But at the end of the day, you have to go through the process of learning what works for you as an individual. If anything, that's probably one of the hardest things that I have to teach in this site and education and stuff, because it's very ethereal. It's not something that you can like say, there it is written down, do that. It's not like that. What you have to do is you have to go through the real process of learning what works for you as an individual. And I love working with Thomas in this regard, because he is a very individual, very strong personality. I love that about Thomas. And he's figured out what works for him. And if I remember, maybe you can talk a little bit about this to the community. I remember at one point you sat down with yourself and said, okay, look, at enough bullshit. I got to figure out what works for me, and I got to do what works. I don't know whether I've had a number of traders that's, start on the site. Oh, I think this, I think that, opinion. And then eventually they work around to, okay, I got to figure out what setups work for me, and then I just have to trade my setups and put your fucking opinion away.
Yeah, it's really that simple, but it's an evolution that you go through. I think you are the only person that knows for sure when you have it and when you still need to develop it. You really know deep down. And deep down, what Brian was talking about was like, at that point, I knew there was something there, that I had some, promise, and that I just was missing this one thing. And really, that one thing was just putting, kind of getting to the point of accepting that my strategy works and that I need to learn to take profits and that I need to just calm down and just trade the plan that I have, which is just obey stops, take profits, and wait for setups. And really, this is the same conversation I had last night with somebody, is that if I can look at a chart and within 5 minutes, if I can't take a position and I know for sure that, there's a position on the table, there's nothing there. Like within a few minutes of looking at a chart, you will know deep down when you're at that point that this position is good, that it fulfills all of your criteria, that it is something you want to take. And more often than not, you're going to end up being right. Of course, there are times where no setup's 100%, but you just have to, you kind of just know. Yeah, Colleen's saying it's a gut thing. It almost is. And, the problem with the gut instinct is that you can't quantify it. You can't understand it. It's just this thing that sits in you, and you have to be able to listen to it and obey it. And if you listen to your gut and your gut tells you you ain't ready for this, don't do it. If your gut's telling you you still need to work on something, you got to work on it. Because if you're just going to run away from it, you're just putting yourself further and further behind. It's really a strange process that you go through, and everyone has their own unique journey. Mine was that one point where I talked to Brian and I was just like, listen, I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. I really think I've got something, but you just sit down and you identify what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses. And the only way to do that is with the data to back it up, from journaling, from, paper trading, from having your setups just listed there in Excel. Yeah, Brian's bringing up this matrix video.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this, eh?
It's true. It's incredible, because you talk to some of these traders and they're just like, yeah, I just trade my setups. I'm the fucking man. I sit at home and I drink kale smoothies and I got 3 strippers sitting on my lap when I fire off my positions. Like, that's not how it is. Like, those guys are full of it. If you're watching YouTube and the guy's like, I made $9,000 today, I'm going to get into my Ferrari and get on my private jet. Those guys are just hiring those things. They're not real traders. Like, real traders, you go through ups and downs. Like, one minute you're especially in your development. Well, when you first start out, you're just like, yeah, I get this. I'm the fucking man. I can figure this out. This isn't so hard. And then all of a sudden you start having some losing trades. You're like, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. And then you really get crushed. You're like, fuck, I'm a total noob. And then you're like, all right, what did I do wrong? And at that moment, when you've already asked, what did I do wrong? You're on the right road to understanding how to develop yourself as a better trader. If you're not constantly questioning what you're doing and reevaluating what you're doing, you're going to get left behind. And I'll let Brian take over with his matrix thing.
Well, the only thing I would add is and this is why, I hope Grim's doing okay. I think he's hip deep in Red Hat right now. But Grim really likes to tell all the level oneers, do like 100 paper trades. Me, Brian, teaching, I like the 20 paper trades, 21 10th account size trades. I think after 40 trades, you're going to know whether you like this setup and you like working with it, or whether it just doesn't work for you. But the point that I'm just going to simply make is, and this is the classic sort of Oracle scene, is knowing that you are there and you are ready to participate in the market with full confidence. You guys have heard me talk about IDT and good old Ray Barbecue. His program called IDT is Intuitive Development for Traders. In essence, his whole program is about, you have to get to the point where it's, and it's just like in the level 1 that I teach you. you start off as a baby. You got no business trying to stand up, and you can barely lift your head off the pillow. And as time goes by and you get practice, you can stand on your own 2 feet. And then as you get more practice and more confidence, then you can start walking around. And as you get more confidence and stuff, you can start running around. And everybody should remember who took the education program that sort of that path. But what I would simply say is, if you're actually at the point where you're still asking, am I ready? Am I there? You're not. And I always like to play this clip of the Matrix, sort of that idea that it's being a professional trader is kind of like being in love. It's not really a question of, am I in love or am I not in love? I don't know. You'll know when you're head over heels. It's the most beautiful feeling, and I haven't been there in a long time. I hope one day maybe I can get there again. I don't know. But you'll know. I mean, you just know with your heart and soul. And it's a real treat for me as an educator and as a mentor to watch the people that really want this go through that process of not knowing, of knowing but not having confidence, and then finally getting to the point of knowing and having confidence and being able to act in the market with a reasonable expectation of making money from this. That's the only thing I'll add to that. So I apologize for going off on a tangent there, but I ironically enough, some of this psychological talk that we talk about is actually even more valuable than looking at a price chart and drawing squiggly lines and stuff. Half of this battle is actually between your ears. It has nothing to do with the market. And I got to say, like all of these bot setups that we've been sort of patiently following, off of the 4-hour charts, you didn't know whether this was actually going to happen. Nobody knew. Nobody. In fact, you asked everybody out in the public and they'd say, no way Bitcoin's going up there. Right. And, like Dav kind of took a lot of heat with his outlandish, high 4,000, 1.618 target tags. But look at that. I mean, it just happened. So you can't say it's not going to happen. The irony of it all is we just don't know. And the only way to actually really deal with this uncertainty, because you just don't know, just get over that now, is start talking setups. And look at, I'm going to take my setup. These are my reasons for acting in the marketplace. This is my profit objective. This is where, if the idea is wrong, I'm proven wrong and I'll cut my losses. And you just got to act, right? And that's the life of a professional trader. So. All right. Ironically enough, this Litecoin bullish bot that we talked about, it's hit its target. The Bitcoin bot, it hit its target. The only one that actually is lagging, and this is why I was kind of curious with Thomas, is the only one that seems to be lagging that just isn't there yet is the Ethereum. I mean, frankly speaking, I have no idea if it's going to hit, but if you did take this bot setup, and there's one gentleman on the site, I was talking positively about him before, Own Pollution. I had a lengthy conversation with him about this. You just don't know. And I'm sure there were a lot of people that through this emming out period were like, this is going to zero, it's going to zero, it's going to zero, it's going to zero. But, if you had entered off of the bot levels and risked against the bot lows, and you had your 3 lows to risk against, you just got to take the trade and live with the results. So at this point, and it's interesting, Thomas was actually hopping off here on his little trade, but off of this 4-hour chart, it's actually had its move stop to scratch level. So ironically enough now, and I think I told you the other day, when Bitcoin had its move to stop to scratch level hit, this is sort of the biggest sort of anxiety relief event you can have in the market. Because in essence, if this thing does crap out and it turns out that Ethereum is not going to run up to its highs, then at worst you walk away at scratch and live to fight another day. Big deal. So congratulations, Thomas, on booking a nice win there. Way to go. It's just slow and steady wins a race. Try and figure out what works for you as an individual and just rock this thing. Is there anything else you want to add? We've kept these people pretty long here today.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about some abstract ideas that don't involve technically trading, but I think it's useful, right? Yeah,
I think it's hugely. The irony of it all is trading has more to do with psychology and setting yourself up for success than any squiggly line you'll see on a chart.
the squiggles.
Don't discount, like Colleen's saying there. I mean, this stuff is especially new people to trading that are just riddled with anxiety and just don't know what to do. This is the best advice that we can give them. It is doable. It's just you have to go slowly and you have to look in the mirror and be completely honest with yourself, and set yourself up for success. Build a plan, vet your setups, take appropriate risk, blah, 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 right? Okay, so, geez, I cut you off there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'm just kind of, I don't regret closing out of my position, but when I was closing it out, I was just thinking there's really no reason for this thing to go down just yet. And I closed the whole thing because, you know what, it is the profit. It is what it is. Maybe I'll get a chance to get back in on it. But again, I'm not seeing the reasons for this to come down yet. Again, like Brian was saying, this thing has to develop. This is so young. And if you're the kind of guy that's like, oh, I'm shorting this thing as soon as I can, and maybe you caught the 163.8 top here in Ethereum, and Brian was asking about Ethereum. So if we want to kind of go by the same idea as far as where could Ethereum top out at, and I may have my fib extensions wrong, so Brian, please chime in here, but I'm looking at a $200 tag. I just think big fat round number. You've got this big, we're kind of in the gap here. We're in this claw that Brian likes to call. This is your MUOC zone. We're in there. I think we need to kind of test top of value in that $200 range before crapping out. But again, that's into the commentary as to, is Ethereum really going to break out to the upside? Because we haven't really broken up beyond this 168 level, because Ethereum did break out before the rest of the market did back here. That was into that Constantinople event, and then, oh, there's a big problem with Constantinople. Let's backtrack, and then the price came back down. Now the network seems to be okay. The whole, Vitalik is going to move toward proof of stake as opposed to proof of work commentary is sort of simmering down, but still on the table. Maybe with that looming, the whole proof of stake thing might be keeping price depressed a bit, because I think a lot of people disagree as to which one is better. I know that's a very polarizing topic, but I still think that this thing can move. And I think that any kind of pullback into 38.2, and it's funny because I drew these these fibs off of the 4 hour. So if you take your lows at 131, really, I should put it on the 4 hour because it's a lot more visually pleasing. The 4 hour here at 131, the high at 163. Now, if this does want to pull back down, Mountain Man is close to where I originally entered the long. I don't see a reason for this to pull back here today. And I'm going to say that just because this is a 4 hour chart, we don't have a div. Sorry?
There's no divs. Willie's
yeah,
not.
There's no divs, and this thing broke to new highs on my MACD. I know people like to use different things. The MACD called to me. This goes into our whole discussion about trader evolution. You're going to find something that called to you. When I learned the MACD, I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, and I've stuck with it since that day. You will know what rhymes with you, and just stick with it, make it work.
No, so now you're just buttering me up, man.
It's really crazy, right?
That logic.
Well, this is why you go through the course. Again, another plug for TRI, I guess. I should be the goddamn cheerleader for you guys at this point. But this is why Brian teaches you all of the things. You're not going to remember all of the things. Hell, I don't remember all of the things. But you're going to find a few nuggets, a few things that resonate with you. And that's the point, right? You can just overwhelm yourself with information and try to understand all of it. I only trade 3 things: location, divergence, and structure. And that's like level 1 stuff. I'm not pulling magical unicorn dust out of my butt here. This is just simple level 1 stuff with a little bit of level 2 mixed in. And of course, I do level 3 with options trading. But different things call to different people. And from what I'm seeing here with the MACD, I don't know why I needed to validate that. I apologize from that long-winded. But anyway, I don't see a pullback here on the 4-hour just yet. So any kind of moves to the downside, I see them as V tops. And everyone knows what a V top means. So I think if we see a V top pullback, it's going to probably come down to 151, maybe tag this 13 EMA here on the 4-hour, if we even go that low. I really can't see this thing backing off. I see it continuing to move higher. And Brian already commented on Bitcoin, so I won't bother with that. But continue to take your cues from Bitcoin.
I mean, I've got a Phoenix chart up on mine, so I'm sure there's slight differences with OKCoin. But I would just simply say that the bot's target's 193.5 on Phoenix here. That I heard you say 200. Interestingly enough, when you zoom out to that higher time frame, I noticed that 200 there, I think it was like 204 or something like that, is basically a 1.618. And it's also like a 70.2, or like the midpoint of the reload zone. So, ironically enough, where do the professional traders, where are they focusing their attention? It seems logical to me that that reload zone up top, especially with that monstrous claw. I mean, that's, if we can accept above the bottom part of the claw, which, unless we totally crap out here today, which I don't think we will, a trader might consider that acceptance. And actually, this is really interesting because on your chart there, it would be really interesting to note the candle body close levels from that February 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th peak. Yeah, right in there. Can the market actually close above those clothesline levels? And you can see how we're fighting right at that level. So I think that's the battle that's going on in Ethereum right now. But again, we've got a situation of higher highs and higher lows. We have a situation where technically the market isn't really overbought yet. We don't have any confirmed divergences. So why on earth would you be actually aggressively shorting this? It just doesn't make any sense. If anything, you got to let the dust settle here. That would be the only thing I would add to this. Now, if you got a nice little consolidation, pull back 38.2 kind of idea, then maybe a little 1-hour bots start forming, and that's actually what is the driver to take us to new highs. Maybe that pushes us into overbought. Maybe that's what generates divergences. And at that point, then we can start hunting shorts. But, look at his crackhead. Does that crackhead look like he just got his fix, or does he look like he's jonesing? I think that guy just got his fix. Anyway, all right. So we did actually about an hour and a half here today. So what do you think, Mr. Mayor? Do you think we gave these people some good value here today? We talked so long.
Yes,
There he is. What do you think, sir? Do you feel like we did a good job today?
Value time, yeah. I feel like I've been to a psychiatrist, I guess.
Yeah, I could use one of those. All right. Thank you, Alex B. He says we've given some good value here today. Probably Alex B, if you do the write-up today, maybe make special emphasis about the psychology of trading, a conversation that we had today about that. So thank you, Dan. And Dan, big kisses to you. That review is just poetry reading it. I guess I'm done. What do you think, Thomas? Are you done?
I have to do one thing, and everyone's going to hate me for it, but it has to be said because credit must be given where credit is due.
CNBC was right in their call. Is that what you're going to say?
CNBC was actually right. Where is this thing? I want to see their stupid trade. They had a Bitcoin long, and I swear I saw that thing, and I was like, oh, no, not again. But for once, broken clocks speak. They were right. So they actually nailed this thing.
And it's interesting because I think this newer trader that they brought on, keep in mind, they're filtering through tons of traders as they go through this. But I have a feeling this guy actually most recently that they've got on there calling is actually doing a pretty good job.
So who is this? This is Jim Miorio. Oh no, this is the guy that's always there. This is that pit guy who, when I first got into business and trading, and before I even met you, this guy was always giving out positions on gold. He's always the guy wearing the jacket in the pit, and he's like, "Oh, I see gold. You're on the 1600. We got resistance at this level, and I'm a trader, so my stop's right here, and I'm going to take profits at that level."
I wonder if he had a stroke.
That's just not a good picture of him. You're right. He's got I think he's wearing, I don't know. But anyway, this guy had his Bitcoin long on, and it looks like he more than hit his target. So good. Hats off to him.
Hey, man. So now we don't shit on CNBC. That's a nice relief.
Yeah. So, and then last commentary before we disappear. And I really wanted to hear some altcoin market commentary because everybody's kind of going off and lots of doubles in the space. I'm just curious as to whether or not this is going to continue, because if we see liquidity start funneling into Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, does that mean we're going to see less doubles popping off? Because usually at least when I was kind of dipping my toes in the pool of the altcoin market, when Bitcoin would pop, you would see the altcoins kind of come down a little bit. And once Bitcoin would simmer down and come down a little bit, then altcoins would continue moving higher. So, I mean, Brian, you watched this more closely than I did. What did you see from altcoins today?
Honestly, it felt like the altcoin market just got way too far, way too fast. And, like the Z Classic, perfect example. I mean, are those kind of moves sustainable over time? So, there's tons and tons of these altcoins just went absolutely nuts. And I think, if anything, ironically enough, the Bitcoin rally has done nothing more than just let a lot of these altcoins come back down off of the insane rally peaks that they've been going through. I think on it, there's some really weird things going on with things like Tether right now. So I'm sort of out of the corner of my eye. I'm keeping an eye on what the hell is going on with this crazy Tether. And now it looks like this True USD is under attack. So, and I've sort of come to the conclusion recently that these stable coins are anything but stable. So I wonder whether there's some shenanigans going on with these crazy stable coins. But I think I heard Tron actually wants to do a stable coin with Tether. So maybe that's some driving influence. But I guess what I just noticed is, first off, a lot of the coins that I want to buy are still, they're not giving me fills, even with this crazy Bitcoin rally. Where's that? I had one screen on here. There's a whole bunch of names that, Twitter OGs were mentioning that they wanted. Here we are. So, this HAXRO, I bought it. It's basically just sitting at that range. So really nothing there. But like this Expanse, I mean, if altcoins are dead, why isn't this thing coming down giving me a fill? This Shift, same sort of thing. I can't get a fill here. This data is probably a really good example of what I'm talking about in the altcoin space. So Bitcoin has its big rally, boom. And this guy pulls back, big dump, and anybody bought up here, of course, they're like, oh, I'm dying, they're going to zero. But I want to buy down here. So if anything, I want more Bitcoin rally, please, so that we can get these things to come back down into buying zones. There was one, even this BitTube still hasn't worked its way back down to the original bottom. I got kind of a funny free trade there. Look at this one, MUE. This one I'm trying to buy, no fills, right? They literally came down to my level. You can see where the gap is, and now look where it is. So the Bitcoin rally, altcoins come back down, and I still didn't get a damn fill. Can you post that chart? Which one? This one, Benjamin? Is this the one you want? I mean, you got to be more specific because I go through about 20 different charts. Benjamin, where are you? Which one do you want? And we should wind this up here. These shows should not be an hour and a half long. So I really want to wind this up. One with Shift. Yeah, Shift here. So I'm trying to get filled here, and they just won't give me a fill. I'm working my bid at this gap right here. I suppose with this higher high, we should move our fib up. There's 78.6 lining up with that gap. That's kind of where I want to be a buyer. So if anything, I need more Bitcoin up. So there you go, Slick. But there's a bunch of names that I want to buy. And there was one, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, crap. Because somebody even the other day said, well, Brian, I'm thinking about buying this coin. If you were going to buy it, where were you going to buy it? Let's see whether I can find it here. And I'm actually a little bummed at myself. Here, no, that's not it. Where the hell is it? Which one was it? I gotta remember which one it was. I even wrote up a chart and I said, if I wanted to buy this thing, this is where I would be working my bid. The problem is, where the hell's the damn chart? Anyway, maybe I'll find it for tomorrow. Oh, here it is, this one. Fucking pissed me off. For some reason, I just didn't have a bid working. So I saw the price of Bitcoin do its big jump. And I looked at the chart, and I even wrote right here, if I wanted to buy, I'd work my bid at this gap. And look how the market came right down here, and it was sitting right there. And I threw my bid in, and it was the offer at 23.95, I think it was, something like that. And I threw my bid in there, and then literally the moment that happened, Bitcoin topped out. And all of these things started to climb their way back. So I would actually make an argument, and I sort of said this earlier, that I actually believe that this little Bitcoin rally did nothing more than just back up a lot of these altcoins into buying windows. And I still got my bid working here, but it looks like they've left me behind, bastards. So that's sort of my commentary on altcoins right now. And I mean, why is this happening? I mean, if Bitcoin is all the rage and stuff is, and that's it for altcoins. Oh, damn it. I try and find these charts, and of course, it's half of the battle. Yeah, this one here. Why are these rallies happening? I mean, if this is it, and Bitcoin is the flavor of the month, why is this thing breaking out here? I mean, what a beautiful W there. I mean, absolutely beautiful. And at one point earlier this morning, this thing was all the way up top here. Really good, actually, commentary on the top of value, and it basically is in the claw right now. But if that's the case, and altcoins are over and the story's over, these kind of rallies shouldn't happen. And then somebody just posted this in the lounge as we got the video going today. Look at this son of a bitch. I mean, they keep in mind, this is in the face of Bitcoin having a monster rally. And this thing, basically, that's 2,700. There's one double. There's two doubles. Son of a bitch. Did it get to two? Yeah, so have you bought anywhere around here 2,500? I mean, look at where the double bottom is, right? Hopefully everybody can see. If you were interested in this, right? It's pretty obvious. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, breakout. Beautiful. I mean, W's all the way along here. And, that's 23.76. Well, gee whiz. There's one double there, right? Up to 26 or 46, 4,700. One double there. There's another double right into here. I mean, that's not supposed to happen, right? And this is on the day when Bitcoin has its big rally. So I still think there's lots of money to be made in this market. But what we have to learn, everybody, is you're not allowed to be buyers up here. You have to be sellers up here, not buyers. All right. So I don't know. Is that enough commentary? Do you want me to say anything else?
Can you go over all of the rest of the coins?
Oh, okay, sure.
I'll get CoinMarketCap up. I got it right here. We've got, did you do EOS, Bitcoin Cash, Binance Coin, Stellar, Cardano, Tron, Bitcoin SV, Monero, Dash, IOTA, Maker, Neo?
Actually, and I put a funny tweet out yesterday about Dash. If anything, you know what? This is probably a really good analogy that the crypto market is back. is that Dash actually has a new spokeswoman.
Yeah.
Colleen's not here, so I don't have to worry about her getting angry. But we used to always joke that one of the reasons why Dash did as well as it did was it was like one of the only cryptocurrencies that had a pretty cute spokesperson. And then Amanda disappeared, and I think she went and got married and had kids and all that. And Dash just fell out of bed. And lo and behold, Dash has their new spokesperson. So it'd be interesting to look back in years gone by, in the future, to see whether this was actually a catalyst for the market, that we actually have the cute spokesperson sales pitch people coming back into the market.
I'll take 500.
Yeah, exactly. It's so sexist. It's terrible. And I'm sorry, I see Deanna's here. But the long and short of it is, I'd be willing to bet that there would be dirty old men who would just go and buy some of this just because of her. But that's capitalism for you. I mean, you might as well call a spade a spade. I was a broker forever, right? I mean, this is reality. This is brutal reality. We used to always say you can always judge the quality of a roadshow based on the food that they serve at their presentation. Who gives a fuck about their property? Who gives a fuck about, the CVs of the directors of the company? The only reason why you'd be buying is if they were serving lobster at their road shows. It's so funny. It's cliche how us humans work. Anyway, so on that note, I probably just got myself into a bunch of trouble with all the female viewers. My apologies. I'm not sexist, but I am a realist. And when the sexy sales pitch girls come back into the space, then you know that the wallet will start coming off the hip pocket. All right, I'm done. You guys have yourselves a great day. Thank you so much, Thomas. I love doing these shows with you. I think you and I have a really special bond and relationship, and I'm very, very appreciative of your time and effort that you spend on the DBs. Thank you so much, Alex. Such a solid rock for me. And Dan, beautiful commentary you made there about the program and how it's changed your life. Thank you, Alex B, for showing up day in, day in out, just being just an awesome anchor for us. And really, frankly, guys, I couldn't continue doing this without all of you guys. So you guys are my rock in my very turbulent life with my son. Thank you, Sjord and Julian for, being my anchors and keeping this show going. And slow and steady wins the race, everybody. Hopefully we're giving you good, actionable information on a daily basis. And we're making a positive difference in this world, because that's really what this all comes down to. So, Mr. Mayor, if you feel like it, you can take us on out of here. Have yourselves a great day, everybody. And the only thing left for good old Brian to say at this point is a big bye for now.